Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to do a Spirit Box session on something that I watched yesterday. And I want to tell you guys, if you've never seen this documentary, it is well worth a watch. It's not something I'm normally interested in, but I watched the 2010 documentary on Ayrton Senna, who was a Brazilian F1 Formula One racing god, basically. He won 3 world championships, and obviously he burned and crashed out early, or we wouldn't be doing this session, right? But there was something about this guy when I watched this documentary. He was down to earth, he was a true competitor, but he had a sense about him of humbleness. And the second thing, I'm getting a full shiver down the back of my neck when I said that. The second thing that I noticed while watching this documentary is he mentions God many times, how, he felt that he had a relationship with God and he could push the boundaries. His teammates said that they thought it was dangerous because he thought that he couldn't die. And then he, brought that up in an interview and said, no, that's not how I feel, but I know my boundaries and I have a relationship with God. And so many times he mentioned spirituality in this documentary. So it's a 2010 documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it, even if you're not a racing fan, which I'm not a huge racing fan, it's got everything in it. It's got some conflict. It's got a little bit of competition, his own teammate and him, an amazing story of what happens to him and his teammate, what they kind of do to each other. Now, I don't want to ruin it, but there's an incident where to win the championship the one year, Alain Prost has to have his partner, Ayrton, they both raced for the same team, McLaren, not finish the race. And if that happens, Alain will be the world champion for that year. So what does he do? He takes out his own partner. Well, the tables turn the following season, and they're in the exact same opposite position. And Ayrton now needs Prost to not finish the race, and he will be the champion. So what happens? Again, both of them are the first 2 cars out in the lead on the track, and they just crash into each other both years. So both guys win a world championship that way. And I'm going to ask some questions about that and talk about that because there was a heated rivalry, and Alain eventually moved on to another team. And there was that ongoing rivalry. But you will also see that Ayrton had to put up with a lot of politics from the racing in the mid-'80s and early 90s when he raced. And they kind of screwed him hard a couple of times. And Alain had something to do with that, and it cost him a world championship. So there was that whole heated rivalry, there was that great story, but there was also the humanitarian side of this guy, the spiritual side of this guy. He was a Brazilian hero. He was beloved by everyone in Brazil because in those days, Brazil was very poor, impoverished. There was a lot of crime because of that. But he proudly would wave the flag, when he would win an event. He, loved Brazil. He put it on the world stage, and people loved him for that. He also started a foundation. He donated many millions of dollars, I think, when he was alive. But after his death, his sister also started a foundation. We'll talk about that because it helped millions of Brazilian children. This guy, he had a way about him, and if you watch the video, and I do recommend that you guys watch this documentary, it was very good. And some of these questions I'm going to allude to, you're going to have to watch the documentary to see what I'm getting at, but there's one in particular that we're going to ask that I'm not going to mention what it is, and hopefully we get some answer pertaining. We all know what the answer to the question that I'm going to ask. It was during an interview. There was a beautiful woman interviewing him. She asked him what he wanted for Christmas, and he said he couldn't say. It had to be censored. Okay, so I'm going to ask him about that. But go ahead and watch this documentary because it's about the human spirit. It's about being humble, even as a world competitor and hero viewed by millions of people, a role model, but retaining that humbleness. He had this feeling to him, in this documentary. It's an amazing documentary. So why am I doing this session, guys? Because I felt a connection to this guy. I can't explain it. I watched it. I had goosebumps the majority of the film. I called Grant halfway through the documentary and said, hey, I found the next guy that you need to do a water session on. And Grant said, no, he doesn't have time. He's not interested. He didn't, So the only way we're going to get some answers is for me to do it. And yes, we're going to be using Spirit Box apps. Some people believe in that. Some people don't. But This will be an amazing, if we get any responses, and we always do, guys, get things. I didn't watch this video with my phone with me yesterday, so the phone wasn't there. Actually, my phone is not here right now. I'm looking for it because I wanted to start recording. So all of the talking I just did to you guys is not going to be biased. My phone is upstairs, so it's not listening to me, as people always like to say, oh, these apps are just listening. Let's get into these questions. And I just wanted to premise this by saying I felt a real strong connection to this guy. I felt a lot of the things that this guy was and stood for, I am and stand for. He was a true competitor. He didn't like politics. He didn't let, if we're racing, we're racing. May the best man win. And I'm the same way. If I'm playing baseball or squash or whatever I'm doing, my wife always tells me, because sometimes I'll go on a 20 or 30 game winning streak at squash with my partner, and she says, you got to let him win one. That's not in me, okay? And it's not to be mean or cruel. When I learned tennis, my buddy Andrew didn't let me win a game for 3 years. And I thank him for that, because when I finally won, when I finally beat him, it was an amazing feeling. I think he used his left hand that day, but it's not in me. I'm a competitor, and that's the way I believe it should be. May the best man win, and I feel that Ayrton was like that. He wanted it to be about true sport, and may the best man win. I connect with that. He didn't like politics. I connect with that. He was humble, gracious. He retained his roots in his country, didn't act as if he was above anyone. He shared his wealth. He was just a good guy, and I felt a really strong connection to him, and that's why I'm going to do this session. Found my phone. Okay, so we're going to use necrophonic, of course. That's what we always use. Ayrton, you were 18 years old when you left Brazil to move to Europe and begin your racing career. Can you describe to us how that felt? As I pushed start there, I forgot I did want to actually just take a moment, meditate, and send out light and spiritually feel if I could bring Ayrton's presence in and connect with him. So I'm just gonna do that really quick before we ask any more questions. I should have kept recording. I stopped recording, but instantly huge waves down my neck and back, so that's a good sign. You had a strong relationship with God. Now that you're on the other side, can you spread God's word from there? Okay, this is just to show you guys, I'm not making this up. This is editing Gary interrupting. So I'm editing this video and I hear, love Jim, he'll follow, something like that, and then it says knock, knock. There's a knock at my door. It was a friend of mine coming over to pick up contacts for my daughter. They weren't supposed to be here for another hour and a half. They came early. But it just seemed weird to me, and not a coincidence that I'm seeing the words knock, knock on here as I'm editing this, and there's a knock at the door at the exact same time. You guys let me know, chalk that up. Is that just a strange coincidence, or is there more to all of this? I think there is. Thankful.
Religion is an important part of your life. Is it an important part of your sporting life as well?
Religion has always been important, or has become even more important over the past 2 years, or just under the last 2 years. And it gives me the peace and the equilibrium that I need to perform under stress, under pressure, all the time. And I have found through God a special way of living and a special way of understanding many things in life, which I didn't have before I really start to understand what God is all about.
Do you have anything to say about the politics of racing in the 1980s and early 90s? Can you tell us why you were so good driving in the rain? What were your feelings about Alain Prost when you were human, both as his race partner and his competitor?
And Senna goes through into the lead. He's passed Alain Prost, so...
Okay, I've got waves of shivers going down my neck for multiple reasons right now, guys. This is important, okay? It was a multi-part question. I asked him how his relationship was with Alain Prost as a teammate and as a competitor, as in when he moved to the next team. And the response is beat him, singular. Okay, so when he was his teammate, it was only one person he was beating because they were on the same team. But then, in response to Alain moving on to another team, it says beat them. That's important to me that he used those two words. When we were on the same team, I beat him. When he was on the other team, I beat them. And this is the part that most amazes me. Full shiver down my back again right there. During the course of editing here, I have clips that I want to put in. And I had a clip of Ayrton passing Alain at one of these Grand Prix and going on to win. And I had put that earlier in the video. But I thought, well, I'm just going to cut the chunk off at the very end of the commentator's little spiel there where it says, Ayrton moves into first place. He passes Alain. And I moved that into the proper place here in the video. And then I went on to figure out what the next thing it says was, and it says, can't catch me. That blows my mind, okay? Like, there's no way this stuff all lines up. And it just makes perfect sense. Couldn't catch him. He beat him. Have your feelings towards Alain changed now that you're on the other side? What did you want for Christmas in 1988? The 1989 Japanese Grand Prix ended in controversy. A 6-month suspension and large fine. Was Jean-Marie Balestri to blame for this? I heard he won. In 1990, did you purposefully crash out Alain Prost to take the title? If so, do you regret it?
And just
Was winning the 1991 Brazil Grand Prix your biggest achievement? And just so you know, if you don't watch the documentary, he actually won that with his car stuck in sixth gear. He couldn't change gears, and he actually ended up winning. He wanted so hard to win that race. And when I said that, there's a full body shiver of acknowledgement of that is all he wanted. And if you watch the documentary, it shows him just triumphantly screaming the joy, the, this is it, we did it, I can't believe I did it. The institute your sister set up in 1995 in your name has educated over 12 million underprivileged Brazilian children. How does that make you feel? Too good. If you could do it all over again, would you change anything? Ayrton, do you have a message for any of your family or loved ones? Again, my mind is blown. I ask if he has a message for family or friends, and the first name I hear is Vivian, and I'm like, okay, who's Vivian? I wasn't sure. That is his sister's name. The sister who started the foundation in his name, and it says, Vivian, thanks. And then the rest of the message here, I don't know, it goes on to say something about girls. I hear girls. I hear share, gifts. I'm not sure what the message is, but he's talking to his family. Because I also know that my next question is, do you have any message for me or the viewers? And he says another name in there that I wasn't expecting. But I thought maybe he would have some spiritual message for us, and which is why I asked him that, I guess. But it says something about Alain. Okay, the app isn't going to make this up. Alain was his hated rival. And it says, tell him, and then I haven't figured out the rest. So, again, this is mind-blowing stuff. I ask him for messages to people he knows, and it's saying names of people he knows. Ayrton, do you have any message for me or my viewers? I clearly heard Alain. Okay, so do you have a message for Alain? So in the documentary, at the very end, when his sister had set up this foundation, I believe that Alain is a big part of that. But I think Alain felt bad about what was going on between them, and he works with the foundation from Ayrton's family. So in the end, I think there was a change of heart there by Alain Prost, for sure. And depending on what was just said there, it seemed that he had a message for Alain, and that would make sense. And the last thing I'm going to do is just send out light, love, warmth, all of the things I felt from this documentary about that man. I'm going to send that out to him as a thank you for all of the good things he's done here, his legacy that he left here, and just send out light and love. All right, and that's all the questions I had, guys. I felt I had to do this session. I don't know, just compelled to do it while I was watching the documentary, and it's not something I normally do. I mean, I don't know. I felt it had to be done. I was hoping Grant was going to do it with the water session. He's not. So this is the best I could do. Now, one more note for you guys just to stay tuned, because I was talking to Grant this morning, and this weekend we are going to be going to Mouse's cabin to do our night investigation. We're getting all our gear ready, and within the next couple days we're going out there to do that, and that will be coming up on the channel shortly, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next adventure.